And then I was sitting in the ski elevator, my body feeling so screwed, and something snapped, just completely snapped. And I was only still feeling this very deep feeling of horror, pain and depression. And the only thought I could have, I want to die, and I want to die now. And so I opened up the ski bar and looked down, and I still remember so good that I saw all these stones underneath me, and the thought that I was having was, the only peace I can find is down there. I'm done with all the pain, the panic attacks. So I was ready to jump. But out of a sudden, from the depths of my being, from my heart, came this other voice that was saying, Koen, you've never been this person. Koen, you've always been optimistic. Call your dad, call him now. So I took out my phone, still with the bar of the ski elevator in my hand. I called my dad, and exactly after 2 times, my dad took up, and only his voice and his laugh made it that I am still alive today. And he talked me through that moment. I came out of the ski elevator. I had to cry so badly. And yes, guys, my name is Koen Walstra, and in this video, I'm gonna share my story from that darkest moment of my life till this moment where I feel incredible self-love and a deep inner peace. And I'm gonna share all the things that happened and also things that can help. First, I want to say that I'm sharing this video because I think it can give hope and also support to anyone that's going through a similar situation, because I know still so good that it helped me so much to see videos and also to read books from people that went through a similar situation. And in this video, I will first do a short recap what happened, and then I will explain the 5 phases where I went through to come where I'm now. So to give a short recap what happened, around 10 years ago, I was having a company with 2 good friends, and the first years I enjoyed it a lot. But then at a certain point, my stress started to rise. I didn't enjoy anymore what I was doing, and I started to get all these burnout symptoms. I got panic attacks, I couldn't sleep anymore properly, but I just kept on pushing myself, and I didn't stop with what I was doing. And then on top, at a certain moment, I had back then a girlfriend, and I pushed her out of my life. I broke up. I more or less lost all joy of life. I went on that winter sport. My body was screwed. I went down the hill. I wanted to go earlier back to the hotel. Stepped into the ski elevator, and I just got a complete crash. And that turned into a couple of months depression and a huge burnout. And I wish that I could say that I learned my lesson there, but after that I had to go through another depression and another burnout before I sold my share in the company. But on the other hand, I do have to say in all honesty that it's been one of the best things ever happening to me, because it changed completely my focus on life and also the way I deal with life, and it brought me where I'm now. So to go to the first phase. The first period after having a burnout or depression is best described with the word hope. Only the hope that there's something better awaiting you. Because it really is the dark night of the soul, and when you have a depression, there is no positivity left anymore. And so hope can be a very strong motivator to keep going. And on top, I made myself a promise, and I would really recommend doing this if you're in a similar situation. And I promised myself to find out what unconditional love for myself is and a true fulfilled life. And such a promise, and can be this or something different, but keeps you going and gives more hope. And I asked myself quite often the question, and it's an interesting question to ask yourself, is, was I really fulfilled before this? Was I so fulfilled that I stepped out of my bed? I jumped in the air because I felt so fulfilled. I truly loved life. And to be honest, the real honest answer was no. So I had in mind there has to be something better. And that hope kept me going. And because I made myself this promise, I was open to actually try anything that would make me feel better. And that were weird things, right? Like certain energy healings. I started doing for the first time yoga. I went sometimes out of my comfort zone, but I just started to try all these different weird things. And on top, I had, I think, a very big luck, and that was that I met my ex-girlfriend. And if you have seen my videos, this relationship broke up 5 months ago. But I will always keep immensely grateful for what she has done during this period, and actually during the entire relationship, to get me through this, and for her support. I will be always grateful. So the first period is really clinching on hope and just trying different things that make you feel better. And then one more thing that really helped me during this period with suicidal thoughts was that I read somewhere that it's very normal that when you go through a depression that you can get these kind of thoughts. So if you notice, you can quite good rationalize these thoughts. You can see the thoughts if they come, and then you say, okay, I'm in this situation. It can be normal in this situation, so I let the thoughts go again. The second phase I would describe as being open to work on myself. And I would have to say that this is the key thing why I'm now where I'm now. And I also think that it is so important when you're in such a situation to work on yourself, to be open to work on yourself, and also to dare to look where we contributed ourselves to come into this situation. And it is so important because otherwise we will do the same thing in the future again. And a simple example, for instance, was that I saw that I had big trouble saying no. So I always said yes. And because of it, I took too much workload on me. I also did things that I didn't enjoy. And this made my stress level much higher. When I saw it, I had a new choice. I worked on this fear. And now when I don't enjoy something or don't want something, I just say no. So I think it's so important to become aware of what we do ourselves to come in a certain situation, to have a new choice. And next to it, I started reading a lot of self-help books. And one of the books was The Happiness Trap. And I would say that this book gave me such a big insight because it showed me that we are not our thoughts. And quite often we live and we believe everything that goes into our head and what our head is telling us. But if we look at it rationally for a moment, right? Our brain is all day long giving the same thoughts. It's quite often thinking about the same things. It's saying quite often one thing and then the opposite afterwards. I, for instance, at the moment sometimes don't think for a couple of minutes and I'm still here. If I look in the room here, I still observe everything and I don't even have to think about what it is. So our thoughts are a beautiful tool, but they don't always give the truth, and they mostly think about things that have happened in the past or simulate that to the future. And so when you learn how to deal with your thoughts, and I did, for instance, also a mindfulness trainer, it's so much easier to deal with these negative thoughts. So this was another really big insight that helped me. Then two other things that I started during this period were that I started a talking group for people that were going through a similar situation. And it can be so helpful to share insights, but also give support to each other and to talk about what helps and what doesn't help. And the second thing was that I started gratitude practices. And if there's one thing that can make you more happy, and it doesn't matter if you go through such a situation or you just want to become more happy in general, are gratitude practices. And it is shown, and a lot of research has been done, that it are not the happy people that are grateful, but it are the grateful people that are happy. And it also makes a lot of sense, right? Like, we get taught to feel grateful when we receive something. So it's that gesture of receiving and you get happy from it. And you can teach yourself to become grateful for very small things. You know, like that you have food on the dish or that you have a cup of coffee. And on top, you start focusing on things that you have instead of the things that you want. And because of it, you get just much more fulfilled. So Gratitude practices are just such a strong and powerful tool, and it can be as easy as sitting down in the morning and just writing 3 things down that you are grateful for the last 24 hours. So it's really a real powerful tool. The third phase I would describe as getting real trust that this would work. And through all the books that I was reading and also all the self-development that I was doing, I got a better and better understanding of how our minds work. And when you get the basics of how our mind works, you also understand much better why it's so important to work on ourselves. So have a look at this picture. So here you see our mind as an iceberg, and you see 5% above the water, that's the conscious mind, and 95% under the water, that's the subconscious mind. The conscious mind is the part where we have an influence on. So what do I want to eat tonight? And you can think about it, you go to the supermarket and you buy it. Then the subconscious mind is quite on a very practical. I step on the bike, I know how to bike, it all goes automatically. But actually it's made up of all our past experiences. So what our parents told us, friends, maybe traumatic experiences, also very beautiful experiences, everything from the past actually. And it dictates 95% of what we do. And it's nice when you drive a bike, but when your boss comes to you and you cannot say no because you have learned that from past experiences, it's not so in handy. So what we actually want to do and what you actually want to do when you're in such a situation is change things in your subconscious mind. And I started understanding better and better how to do this and how to influence the subconscious mind. And because of it, a lot of different things started to look different in my life. So if you can say, for instance, no, when you had before a hard time in saying no, you will get less stress, you will have a more fulfilled life because you do more the things that you enjoy. So that was very, very helpful. On top, I started to do more and more spiritual things. And actually the only thing that I always asked myself was, does it make me more happy? And when it was the case and I didn't hurt anyone else with it, I just kept on doing it. And this was not the happiness of buying something like a t-shirt and being happy for 15 minutes. I asked myself, does this make me happy on the long run? So if I keep doing this, does it bring long-lasting happiness? And I think that we quite often in our life do things because it makes other people happy or because we think we have to do it. But asking yourself the honest question just every time, does this make me more happy, is a very strong gesture. And I started also doing these spiritual courses, one from a girl called Laura Seiler in German. And I started with the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza that has contributed in the last 3 years a lot to my life, I have to say. The fourth phase I would describe as finding self-love. And this would be the last 2 till 3 years. And there were a couple of things that made a huge influence in this period. So first of all, I kept being aware of things and also things from my personality that I didn't enjoy. And I used all my tools to change them in something that I enjoyed. So if you have seen the subconscious mind, there are all these programs. And what I just did, I just noticed the entire day if there were things that didn't make me feel good. As an example, for instance, I noticed that I complained quite a bit. And I also noticed that it never made me feel good. So what I did was that I set for myself a 21-day challenge to not complain at all. It made a massive influence on my life because afterwards I was almost not complaining anymore. And so when you become aware of something that you don't enjoy, it's so worth it to have a very conscious thought about what do I actually want to do. And for instance, in my case, it was, I don't want to complain, I just want to feel good and I want to see things as an opportunity as they arise. So that was the first thing. Then the second thing was that I was reading and learning a lot about our heart. And I saw that in all these traditions, and also in the West, the heart has a lot to do with love. Actually, it has a lot to do with high frequency emotions. And One of the biggest tools that we can use is connecting more and more to our heart to feel love for ourselves, but also feel love for our surrounding. And I know that the Heart Math Institute in America does a lot of research on the heart and how it works and how it influences also scientifically how we are feeling and how it can get us out of hide and flight. And so I started to do more and more meditations that had to do with the heart. And what I just do throughout the day, actually constantly, is I try to keep a part of my awareness in my heart. And what I do quite often is I just place my hands on my heart and I start breathing slowly in and out of my heart and think of things that I'm grateful for. And that connection to our heart makes a huge difference. And then one thing that also was just miraculous was that for the first time in my life, I did it with a meditation of Dr. Joe Dispenza. I just felt this extreme inner love and self-love for myself and this entire world. And that was just an eye-opener of how much love we have inside of ourselves. And what I also started doing was saying to people around me that I love them. I've never learned that. It's never, from my youth, we never did that by us at home. But I just thought, I'm just gonna say to everyone that I love them. And by saying that, you start automatically feeling more love for them, but also for yourself. So that was also incredibly helpful. Then the fifth and last phase I would describe as deep inner peace and self-love. And this has been more or less the last year. And it's actually very interesting because in the last year, I went through two very challenging things. So first, my father getting diagnosed with Alzheimer and going backwards. And secondly, my fiance breaking up with me after a 7-year period. But still with both things, I could feel this deep inner peace and self-love inside of me. And it didn't take the pain away, right? So with this breakup, it was one of the most painful things I've ever gone through. But in the same time, I could always feel this deep inner trust, also a gratitude and peace that it would become all fine. And this was something completely new for me. So that was very beautiful. And the second thing that helped me was overcoming again more fears and starting this YouTube channel. Because I wanted already to start this YouTube channel for 2 years. But fears always stopped me from doing it because sitting in front of the camera was one of my biggest fears. And so I'm so grateful that I started the YouTube channel now. And then another thing that really shifted was that I started to put my focus more and more on serving other people. So for instance, I started a year ago with a healing group where we do energy healings. And we do them weekly energy healings. And the second thing is the YouTube channel where I try to share my lessons and the things that I've learned in the last 10 years and serve other people with this. And just it gives so much fulfillment when you start to serve and to share things that you have learned to other people. Then the last thing that changed, and I think this has been a process throughout all 5 phases, is that I've been overcoming more and more the fear of what other people think of me and just started doing the things that I enjoy. And I think that for quite some people, this is a topic. And I have to say that when you go out of your comfort zone and try new things, also really weird things, it doesn't matter. And just ask yourself always the question, does it make me more happy on the long run? And when it does, keep doing it. It slowly fades and fades away. And I have to say, when you don't care anymore so much about what other people think and you just start doing what you enjoy yourself, it makes all the difference. So that were the 5 phases I went through in the last 10 years to come where I am now. I really hope that you enjoyed the video and that there were some helpful tips in here. If you liked the video, please like the video, write a comment or subscribe to my channel for future videos. And I wish you an amazing day and I'm sending you all my love.